Just a question about next week, opening up the village hall for Rock and Gardens.
Yeah.
Just been fine.
Yeah.
It's
That I literally.
And,
it's on my band.
People are here.
It's on the second time.
Let me just check if it's 5 o'clock or a little later.
That's what you told me, it's fine.
Okay. That's what I
Anyway,
told
I
you.
just wondered if I could have,
Did you?
like, I could talk to Rosa or the people in
Did
the
you?
office, just to keep it open, not to lock the door.
Nikon. Did you go?
Yeah, it starts at 5. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that might
yeah,
happen.
and I'll be here. I'll be here. So I
You-
can,
Oh, you're gonna be?
yeah, I can open up.
Okay.
Actually, you're right. It's at 5 o'clock, so I don't need any help with that
Okay,
anyway.
I'll come at 7 to close it, if that's, if you want.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. 'Cause I'll be here.
Okay.
I realize that now. Yeah. I thought it might be away that day. but We are live. We're live on YouTube now. So.
All right. So stop talking.
Let's-
All right. Huh? 2 minutes.
Wait, hold on a second. Wait, hold on. This isn't actually working.
It's on.
This microphone should be on, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village Board of Trustees meeting for Thursday, February 13th, 2025. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you all for being here. Just a couple of things. We have a relatively straightforward agenda tonight. I do not believe there's no we're all grabbing the minutes from last week and thinking it's the agenda for this week. We don't have any public hearings for any legislation. We're not considering any changes right now. There's nothing on the board to change the code. But we just have a couple of pretty straightforward resolutions. I think the highlight is the adoption of the the Nyack Tourism Grant fundings. And I know we've got people here that want to speak about the cannabis issue, so they're welcome to come do that and we get to public comments in a few minutes. I do want to give my thanks to the DPW for, we had a bit of a snowstorm last weekend. The streets, I mean, by the time it was overnight and I woke up and I started doing my driveway and all the streets were already clean. By the time I got out about 7 a.m. They did a wonderful job with it. I want to thank the people that moved their cars out of the emergency, snow emergency areas. Not everybody did. We did give out some tickets, but we did get a lot of people that moved their cars to allow for plowing as well as safety for our first responders. I want to thank the fire department chiefs. I went to meet with them, with the village administrator and the village, the chief building inspector. We sat down with the chiefs and went over some priorities that they have for some of the things that we could be doing better as a village, and coordinating better with them to enhance public safety, especially with regards to fire safety. I also want to thank, he'll be up here and he'll be talking to us in a few minutes, Thomas Schneck from Visit Nyack for the tremendous work he does when we're doing the Nyack Tourism Grants. There's an enormous amount of nuts and bolts, heavy lifting, and very detailed work, which he's really great at, and I'm really terrible at. So it's very much appreciated the work that he does there. All right. Next, if we have anybody from the board of trustees that wants to make any open comments. Yeah, I do. Joe, make sure I'm on.
Is it on? Yeah. Hello. Okay, two things. First of all, the last meeting, I was deputized to meet with Marcy Baker and the tree committee to talk about the additional trees that are planted in Memorial Park. And I met with Marcy and we looked at the location and we actually changed the number of trees and the layout of the new trees to maximize open space on the Great Lawn at Memorial Park. So that's done. The other thing is that I've been in touch with the Keep Rockland Beautiful organization with a mind to organizing this year's Nyack Community Cleanup. And I'll coordinate with the mayor, Andy, and Maria, the DPW, and I'll bring a resolution with the timing and location to the village board for approval. And I'm going to ask for volunteers, anybody that wants to join committee doing that. So not yet, but. Cool.
Yeah,
So, I do want to just thank the Nyack Center. They did a wonderful event last Saturday, despite the snow that was incoming, for the African American Day Oratory Contest and the Black History Month Market. It was really a wonderful event, so I just want to give a shout out to the Nyack Center for that. I also know that there may be some upcoming events in the summer, one of them being a basketball tournament that Daquan usually puts on. I know there's some folks here who may come up during public comment to speak on that, but I do just wanna put that on your radar, Andy, to, an application will be forthcoming, so that we can start planning some summer activities for the kids. That's it.
Anything now?
Yes.
All right, next up is public comments on any comment. We'll give 2 minutes on public comment. We have a list of, if you still want to get on the list, you can just raise your hand when we're done with the people whose names are on the list, and then you can come up. I did want to make one prefatory comment with regard to, because I know some people are here to talk about the cannabis issue because it came up this week. It was in front of the building department for some work that the application in the old Starbucks space, that they're making application for certain work that they're doing on the space. And so it came up that, there's a proposal for a cannabis dispensary, a medical cannabis dispensary in the old Starbucks space, which got people concerned. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of things about it. One is that the proposal only is in front of the planning board only with regard to specifications of their work that they want to do on the space. It is not, there is no issue in front of this board or in front of the planning board about the legality of the sale of cannabis for the medicinal purposes in that space. That is subject to a decision that was made 4 years ago by the village board to opt in to the state cannabis retail dispensary opportunity. Once we have opt-in, we cannot opt out of that. And so retail cannabis would be allowed. And just to be clarified, even if we had not opted in, this would still not be subject to that rule because it's medical, it's not adult use recreational. So just to be clear, there's nothing in front of us about that. And people can still make whatever points they want to make and they can express their perspective on it, but there's nothing that can be changed from the board about this particular opening up. The other thing I wanted to make, and I made this point online today, but online is not real life, and so I wanted to make it here on the record, is that according to our rules in the village of Nyack, and this is taken right from the state rules, retail use cannabis dispensaries, meaning the adult use recreational dispensaries, cannot be located in a village this size, cannot be located within 2,000 feet of each other. Which means that if a cannabis dispensary was placed at the corner of Main Street and Broadway, and there is one been proposed for the old village market space, which would be recreational, not medicinal. But if you took the Main Street and Broadway and you go 2,000 feet south, you reach the end of the village. If you go 2,000 feet north, you get up past the retail district all the way to Fifth Avenue. You go 2,000 feet to the east, you're in the middle of the Hudson River. You go 2,000 feet to the west, and you're up to Midland, not Franklin, you're all the way up to Midland. Which means that one cannabis dispensary in the downtown essentially prevents the possibility of there being a second cannabis retail dispensary in the downtown. Because people I know are concerned about there being multiple ones. And then people say, well, they're all already multiple ones. Those are not legal. They are not licensed. And because what they're doing, if they are indeed selling cannabis, they're doing so illegally. And that's a police matter. Again, the village doesn't have authority over that. It's a police matter and it's a state licensing matter. It's not something the village can shut them down as much as I would like to shut them down. And then the last point, because I think this is a really good concern that people have regarding whether a dispensary, whether this medicinal one, or whether we do end up with a downtown retail one, whether that would increase the amount of smoking on the street. And there is that possibility, and we'll have to deal with that possibility if it comes up. I think that generally people don't smoke in front of the store when they're buying medicinal. I will also tell you that for the legal dispensary, you cannot smoke within 50 feet of the lot that it's on. Which would give you some space on either side to disperse people, so they're not just clumping in front of the space. There's also no smoking laws in the village. You cannot smoke within, I believe it's 200 feet, might be 100 feet, of the library or the NIAC Center on Broadway. Any library, any place where kids are in preschool or after school programs, which would probably also include the YMCA. You cannot smoke within a certain distance of those spaces. So there are no smoking spaces, and I do think it does behoove us on the board to try to promulgate more information about where those non-smoking spaces are and try to make sure that we do enforce them going forward. So with that said, people can make whatever points they want to make. I just wanted to clarify those. I've done it online, but I think it's important to clarify here on the record. With that said, I know people are here to speak about a couple of different issues. That's the only one I'm going to kind of preview. But I will let go to the list, so go ahead.
Okay, Sonia?
Happy pre-Valentine's Day. Good afternoon, good evening to all.
Microphone?
Oh, sure. Could I say it again? I don't know. No. It says on. Yeah. I'm not good with microphone.
Oh, battery's dead.
Testing.
You can test all day.
Let's see if this reaches. See how far we can get with this.
Okay.
Hold on, Sonia. I guess I do this without knocking anything over.
Okay.
It's a lot of attached wire. So.
Not over your head.
Oh, okay, really? Okay, sorry. I hear it.
We're gonna get there.
How's this? You can also move it up.
Good evening, and happy pre-Valentine's Day, to all. It's just, I guess you can call it a proposal for the annual Live Free Weekend Basketball Tournament. This is the 5th year that my son has been doing this. We proposed the date for August 9th and 10th. And a rain date of August 16th and 17th. We are in the process of completing the necessary application as well as securing the necessary insurance for both weekends. And that's all I have to say.
All right.
It's,
Just leave that there. Thank you.
do we have anything else going on that weekend? And we're going to bring this next weekend. And obviously, we want to try to do this. Is there anything else going on? I don't think there is.
I haven't had a chance to check that, but
August is a pretty open month because there aren't any street fairs. There are no. There's by then the music in the park, which is on weeknights anyway, is usually over.
looks good. There may be the movie in the parking lot on the 17th, the drive-in movie.
Yeah, but that would be at the night.
But other than that,
Yeah.
I don't see any other events scheduled.
So that's an application in front of you right now?
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Didn't finish the analysis. So I
Okay.
just finished the analysis, the more necessary information.
all right. Well, I mean, I think that's the sense of the board that this would be approved, so you can start making your plans, but you should still get the forms in so we can make sure it's official, but we'll, if the forms get in, we'll approve it at the next meeting.
Dominic?
Hi, Dominic Keller. Vita Place. So think the things that you preface these comments with, usually. The comments that you made,
So that's
It's
all.
on.
Put it up to you.
Just hold it close.
well, the comments that you made, you prefaced the public comments with, are basically state minimum requirements. And that's what's been adopted, and that's what's written in the law. And what I'm suggesting is that you do something else, you put more restrictive guidelines. I texted this to you over the weekend. In, not as developed as this, but this again is a high level. Bunch of options, I mean, this is just a, you have all the power to make any changes you want. You don't have to limit, you don't have to accept the dispensary in that location. You can make very specific zoning changes and just say no dispensaries, just like you can say no franchises. And municipalities do that. They make all these local law. I think they like to hear. So local municipalities can make all of this local law, right? And this is your power. This is how you manage state laws. Obviously, I mean, I know you guys know this, obviously, but and if this is outside, village council, I think you need to look into hiring people that actually specialize in this. This is brand new. It's been adopted, or it became legal in 21. No one really knows anything about the outcome of it and how it gets administered. And the state specifically designates this as dangerous for minors by declaring that the glass on the storefront has to be black. It has to be blacked out so minors can't look in, and they state minimum distances from churches and schools. What I'm suggesting is that you make it more restrictive. And just by that very nature, what the state declares is dangerous, you should perceive it as dangerous as well and do more. And that's what local laws do. New York City has the same building code we have nationally, but in fact, 2,000 pages. New York City adopted local laws. They have a 14,000 page local building code. It's all the local laws that they've adopted, and zoning too. And so you have the power to do that. And just because we've adopted the state minimum requirements, it's not doing the subject matter justice, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be in a family-friendly area of Nyack. It doesn't even have to be on Main Street. It doesn't have to be on Broadway, and you can make that determination if you wanted to. You have the power. You call a moratorium, you have a special meeting, you decide you're gonna talk about local law, you hire an expert to write a local law, and you adopt it. And you're not in danger of the state suing you or backlash. I mean, if it's properly crafted, that's exactly what you do. So all I did is I touched upon some basic areas: zoning and location restrictions, operation regulations, right? Buffer zones beyond state requirements, expand distance requirements to include parks, playgrounds. I mean, what about the YMCA? I mean, that's 400 feet away. I don't understand how that is an oversight. You got all the whole Main Street thoroughfare is just filled with minors. And by definition, it's dangerous to minors.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And you have the power to do it. And it seems by your posts on Facebook, you are very reluctant to hear that or want to entertain this any further. It sounds like you guys have done the work and you don't want to do the work, you don't want to think about it anymore. And so it's done and that's it. And that's where we are. So I think that's narrow-sighted and unfortunate because you could do better.
Thank you.
Mike?
Hello, my name is Mike Hassan. I'm a Nyack resident, and I'd like to just thank Dominic for his words. I think a lot of what he says rings true. And I'm not a person that's in public life. I'm really just, I go to work, I come home. I love this town since I moved here. I have kids and I feel invested in this town, and this is gonna be the town that my kids come to Thanksgiving for when they're in college, right? That's how I feel about it. Like I said, I'm not in public life. I don't really contribute too much to these type of meetings and stuff, but when I was taking my kids the other day, to get some ice cream over on Main Street, I saw the notice on the old Starbucks. And I was concerned enough where I came out for this, because for me, as a parent in this town. Let me go back. I can't go back to 4 years ago with the decision we made. We are where we are now, and I respect that was said. However, I think that this town needs to take some action at this point. Turiello's is a Nyack institution. I think everybody can agree on that. And that place is packed with kids. A lot of what Mayor Rand brought up in the beginning was the safety concerns that were taken to ensure that minors would not be affected by that. But that's a moot point, considering anybody who's ever been past Turiello's, when school's out, it's filled with minors. And we're building, and we're talking about building a dispensary right next to it. I am, like, as I said when I started this, I'm a person who's concerned about the long-term health of this town and the well-being. I moved in here because it was a family-oriented place, and I love it. I love this town. I would just ask the council to consider the location. If this has to be done, and there is gonna be a dispensary, there are far better places than right next door to Turiello's, between a pizza parlor and an ice cream shop, where all our kids go to. I think that's horrendous. Thank you.
Alicia? I'm not sure what this, Graves is the last name? Okay. What's the first name? No, what's the first name?
Yelena. Elena. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you all in person. My name is Yelena Graves. I live in Nyack on Polk Street, and I'm here also to offer my 5 cents on the cannabis issue. The fact that we did not opt out doesn't mean that we don't have to do any kind of long-term planning, or we don't have any say over how we manage these businesses. So I fully support what Mr. Pilla just offered to the board. The statute that legalized marijuana specifically empowered local municipalities to regulate further the time, place, and manner of how these facilities operate. And I'm very glad to know that we actually did that. Mr. Rand, thank you for responding to my Facebook post earlier today, and you sent me a snippet of the regulations that we have. I greatly appreciate that. I see that we went beyond the statutory requirements on the time for these establishments. That's great, but that's not enough. I respectfully submit that we should also consider regulating the places where this happens and the manner in which they're operated, and we can do so. If we think about the requirement that the state legislature imposed on the distance between the schools and these businesses, granted, I didn't read the legislative history, but I think the purpose of this is very common sense. These establishments should not be near children. In addition to Turiello's and the ice cream shop, it's about 200 feet away from Rock Shop, where a lot of our kids are enjoying musical education. And it's just a place where a lot of families and minors congregate. So with that in mind, I respectfully request the village to consider adopting further local zoning regulations on the subject of where these dispensaries are allowed to operate and the manner. For example, some municipalities considered whether they want to limit the size of these dispensaries, as opposed to allow them to take any space in town. And the second point I'd like to make is under section 76 of the cannabis law. The applicant for a license is required to provide notice to the municipality of the application. I'm sure you know that. But what's interesting is that the municipality is specifically empowered by the state to give its opinion to the board, whether in favor of the application or against the application. And then the board is required to tell the municipality how, in detail, how it factored the municipality's opinion into its decision-making, whether granting or refusing this specific application. So I'd like to know if the board exercised that right when a proposal is to place a dispensary in a family-friendly location where a lot of minors congregate. And if not, why not, given that, you know, I humbly submit not only me, but many members of this community believe that this should be done. And with that in mind, I thank you for your time, and I hope to hear more on this issue. Thank you very much.
Diane,
Three people that spoke before me said it
You're
so
good?
beautifully, I'm not gonna go.
okay. Shaya? Hope I didn't fill that.
I am Chaya Pilla, I live at Lavita Place. My name is Chaya Pilla, I live at Lavita Place. This makes me very nervous, actually. I too just want to go on the record and say that I'm uncomfortable with the dispensary and I would like the zoning to be changed. For the record, I moved to Nyack in 2003. So I've been here for over 20 years. I met my husband here, I started a family here, I love Nyack. I love Nyack. And I just have to say, the last couple of years, and especially now, I have never seen Nyack look so bad. And it is so disappointing to me. And I love Nyack, and I don't mean any disrespect. But, my children and I, we walk to town often, and I'm finding myself feeling like, what places do I have to avoid? I know a few people here know that I have spoken about what's going on in front of Parks Plus and the loitering and just feeling like I am unsafe in Nyack now. And I feel like this dispensary is just another area that I'm gonna have to avoid. And that is unfortunate, and the members of the board that I've contacted about Parks Plus and the loitering and feeling unsafe, we've stopped going to Congosville, and that's a business that I really like and my family likes. And so now we're gonna put a dispensary, it's been said, by an ice cream shop and Turiello's, and I feel like it's another area that I have to avoid with my kids, and I don't wanna have to have these conversations. I don't wanna have to walk by tinted out windows and see what I'm seeing in town all over the place. And I know that, maybe that makes me sound insensitive or whatever, but it's the truth. And I, like I said, I've been here a long time. I didn't just move here, and I love Nyack, and I don't want to be here tonight. I want to be home with my kids. It was very difficult to get here and my childcare, for both of us to be here. But I came out because it's important to me, because I think, I just blindly feel like the board should be doing what they need to be doing. And now I'm realizing I have to pay more attention because I don't want Nyack to go down the tubes, is what I'm seeing. So I'm begging you to please, what I've been hearing is, we've done this thing and it's too late. We've done this thing and it's just the way that it is. And I just don't feel like that's good enough. I really don't, I'm just begging you to please look at this again and think about the long-term effect. It doesn't bring any character to our town. It's not an addition to our town, a family-friendly town that Nyack is. So.
Kirk? No,
Give it a second chance. What was his name?
Kirk?
Kirk? Kirk. The last name?
I,
Just stepped out.
All right, there's somebody else?
no,
All right, we have other opportunities for public comment later. Let's go, we'll try to get through the, do you want to jump, you want to come in as well? All right, just state your name.
My name's Peter Vermazen. I've lived in town for 37 or 8 years. It's a little disturbing because I see that now I walk past it tonight, Karen Houghton's business is done. The green grocery store. There's empty holes all over the town. And last weekend I was in Beacon. And it's a thriving town. The downtown is much more, it's just a better downtown than we've got. It didn't used to be. So I view you guys as the guardians of Nyack. So I really would like you to really guard us. And this is just, this cannabis place is just, I think the only other one is in Haverstraw. Now the other one is gonna be here.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
Well, there's multiple medicinal marijuana license locations within Rockland County. This is a
Well, I
medicinal
was
location for
misinformed.
Starbucks. There is also a legal dispensary up at Treehouse over
Yeah.
by Old World. That's a legal,
That's a legal.
that's a legal adult,
Adult use.
adult use, which is the recreation use.
But what I'm saying is, this is the type of business that I don't think adds to a community that's already seems to be on its downswing as far as the downtown area. What's next?
Thank you.
Let's look on the side, Beacon is a city with a large population. And again, they've really come back from where they were from years ago. I was actually in Beacon last weekend, and there are quite a few empty storefronts there now. But I take what you say, to heart, absolutely.
No,
Anybody else?
15,000 people here, we're 70,000.
You're still gonna- yes.
So we're looking at mile.
What's that?
I will also mention Beacon has 6 dispensaries in their downtown.
It looks nothing like Nyack.
And North Station.
Let me just clarify again. What you're associating as dispensaries are illegal smoke shops. Those are not legal. They do not look like dispensaries. If you want to see what a legal dispensary looks like, do take it, if you haven't been inside Treehouse, you don't have to go buy anything, but you can go up to Treehouse up on 59. They run a clean operation. It looks like an Apple store. It's a very, it's not like what the smoke shops look like. And I think people have a misconception, particularly about what the medicinal marijuana shops look like. They look like pharmacies. So, you know, I just want people, I think people are getting alarmed unnecessarily about what the character of this particular location is going to be. But I hear what you're saying. I think the board hears what you're saying. I think Dominic gave us a list of things to consider about changes to the law, to clarify the law, if you want to come up. To additions to the law to try to narrow some of the usage. I would just caution that it is part of the law that we cannot opt in and then pass regulations that make it impossible for one to open. And when you're in a, this is a village that's 1 mile across. That's 5,000 square feet, and you cannot put one within 2,000 square feet of each other, which means that you're really limited to one dispensary in the entire downtown, as I said before. Won't count the medical, but it does limit the amount of dispensaries that could be put in town. All right, please state your name and go ahead.
My name is Robin Donahue. I've lived here for almost 10 years. I think what we all think is that it's in the wrong location. Absolutely the wrong location. Everybody's voicing their concerns about the ice cream store, Temptations and Churros. If people don't want to go there, those 2 places are going to close. And they won't be there anymore. Also, there's a huge marijuana problem with teenagers in this town. And I don't, even though it's medicinal, I have no problem with it, but I just think it's sending the wrong message to be on Main Street. Thank you.
State your name for the record, stranger.
So I'm Kelly Colquitt and I run the editor. And I also live on North Broadway. As a layperson, the distinctions between medicinal, recreational. My husband and I drove from Treehouse straight down Main Street last night. We really wanted to see Olar, but I knew this meeting was happening. I said, so let's count. What me as a lay woman thinks is a smoke shop, a weed shop. And I guess I came up with 4 or 5. So that's the dispensary next to the Torriellos and Temptations. It's just, it shouldn't happen. The town looks like Potterville in It's a Wonderful Life. We've just got too many weed shops. Too much, it's just not good. I can understand the owner of the building who used to, maybe I'm wrong, got close to 10 grand a month from Starbucks. So if he's holding out for 10 grand, sure, I guess a New York State regulated medical marijuana dispensary is the kind of shop that he will be able to get his 10 grand. I shouldn't say it, I don't know rent is. Or a, you know, a franchise or something like that. But it seems to me that there's a disconnect between building owners in this town who are perfectly willing to, I mean, in your Facebook post, it looked like there possibly could be one across from this town hall, catty corner from me. But it's not a, you know, state regulated medicinal, be recreational. I mean, come on, it's just, I think the building owners should be in communication with you guys, or you should be sitting down with these folks, take them out to lunch and be like, you know, WTF, what can we do? You know, and then I think people like us should organize and be like, hey, do you have a kid who went to Cordon Bleu and wants to open a cake shop, and maybe get 5 parents to help somebody open a cake shop, or, you know, like, let's get your bottom line question every day, and I've said this to you, Joe, is what is good for the community? Not what's good for the editor, not what's good for, you know, the owners of the Starbucks building. What is good for the community? Everything, every decision you make should be what's good for, if it's good for the community, then I'll get hiring ladies who come to town to brunch, to go get a slice of cake, they'll go get a cocktail, and then they'll come to the editor. But if it's not good for the community of Nyack, it's not good for the families. There was a woman who came in tears when she heard about the thing going in a Starbucks. She just super overpaid for a home that she's now fixing up in town. She wants to raise her kids here, and in tears she said, I think I made the wrong decision. And she's in, she overpaid, and that's what she said, and it almost made me cry. Because I think what Mr. Pillay is saying is true. You know, you're gonna have to like put something on the table and show a lot more muscle. We all love this town. I've been here like almost 40 years. So, you know, I got a shop here. I don't want to say anymore, but it doesn't matter if it's they sell papers or they regulated marijuana through the state. Visually, it's a problem. And high-end gals, middle class gals, they don't want to come. Business is not good. They don't come like they used to. It's very quiet. You can say what you say about Beacon. I was in Beacon 15 until they got the DIA. Beacon was on the skids. They got DIA, the town blew up. And then people came in and they built before interest rates went to 7%. DIA's on fire.
I was just pointing out that the size wise in terms of.
Yeah. I mean, we could be doing more in this town. That's all I'm saying. Real estate wise, you know, developing more real estate, blah, blah, blah. But there's too many visual indicators of a downward look right now. I actually thought at Christmas it was lovely, but we're done.
Anybody else? Did the gentleman come back that wants to come in? Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mary McGovern, and I've lived here for over 25 years.
Can you hold it closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Thank
You may be the only person ever who asked me to speak up. But yeah, Mary McGovern, been here over 25 years. And before that came for decades because I had family here. And I've got to just say that when I heard about this, I was horrified. I'm horrified because, for one thing, when I go down the streets of Manhattan now, all I can smell is pot. And it's awful. And it doesn't enhance the city in any way to have that experience. And I've heard so many parents I know, they're not here right now. They're probably home with their kids, putting them to bed or doing homework or whatever they do. But I can't tell you, to a person, the parents I know are horrified as well. They're horrified by things, you know, there's the appearance, but bottom line, it's about the fact that there's already one place where you can get this right down here. And this does nothing to enhance our downtown. We need new businesses, no question about it. We gotta fill these shops up, no question about it. We all love this place and live here together. No doubt about that too. But we gotta figure out how to pull together and get different kinds of businesses in here. Not the ones that are on the table for this. It's doing nothing, as was said, for the community, for the kids, for the families. It's just like a bad strategic move for the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Burke,
No, anybody else?
that's it. On my
All right,
list.
we'll get to our agenda. Anybody else want to give any comments? From the board?
Yeah, let me just say that I understand what everybody's saying. And I think that, Dominic, your list and things that you suggest, I think we should seriously look at.
Some of these things are. Some of these things are already required by state law. for
Right.
every-
Well, no, I misunderstand the requirement of the state law, I apologize. The state law specifically said, we don't know what local municipalities may need. These are our minimal requirements, and you can legislate further to meet your local municipal needs.
Okay.
And this is what this community is asking, to go beyond these state minimal requirements. So I apologize for interrupting you, but I just wanted to clarify that we understand there are already certain limitations set by the state law. Thank you so much.
You realize the limitations that they set and the opportunity they give to municipalities to create their own limitations are built for every municipality in New York State, including the cities, including towns, including villages with 7,000 people in 1 square mile. Regulations that might work very well in New York City or might work very well in White Plains don't necessarily work well when, by putting them in place, we would essentially outlaw any dispensary from opening. Now, I realize there's many of you that would like us to outlaw any dispensary from opening. Well, no, I think there's been a lot of commentary about it. I'm just saying that some of the regulations that you have proposed, if put in place, would make it impossible for a dispensary to open.
You're exactly right. There is no one solution for every municipality. I fully agree with you. That's why the legislature empowered the local governments to make their own choices. I've read Mr. Dillon's letter. I don't think he's giving you any options, because you're right. A legal professional should advise this board on how to legislate within the parameters of the statute and avoid preemption. But these are just general ideas of where the village can look at that, and that's all. And
All I'm
thank you
saying
so
is
much.
just to, study this, evaluate,
Okay,
that's all. Give it a fair year.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
all right, let's go to the resolution. Actually, is there anything else? We have the adoption of minutes for 1/30/2025. Joe, I know you had a correction for the minutes, right? Did it get made?
Everybody got an updated copy. We just on the last page, the last paragraph.
We gotta get it on the
And I
table.
covered that
Get it
in
on the
my
table.
remarks in the beginning.
Okay.
Wait, we gotta put it on the table first before you can make your comments, Joe.
Motion.
No, he doesn't, he's not making, he's just referencing. All right, can I get a motion for the minutes? Adoption.
Second.
Discussion, Joe already made the discussion, so you're aware of the fact that he changed, or he asked to change to correct the minutes to reflect the fact that he was empowered to talk to the tree committee, which he was then mollified about his concerns about them, which we then sort of approved by virtue of him. We left a conditional approval based on his comments, so that's all been corrected. Any other comments or questions about the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. 7.1, resolution 25-12, accepting the audited voucher summary. Can I get on the table?
Second.
Joe,
Yes.
I transposed 2 numbers, so just to correct the general fund isn't 232, it's 323.
323, the general fund is 323. All right, so we got it on the table now. Motion to correct the resolution to reflect the fact that the general fund is not 232,241, it's
323.
323,241. With that change, can I get a motion to make that change?
Second.
All in favor of the change?
Aye.
Can I get all in favor of can I get, call the question on the voucher summary? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 25-13, approving the grants under the Nyack Hotel to. The Nyack, it's not the Nyack Hotel Tax Tourism Grant Program, it's the Nyack Tourism Grant Program. It is funded though by the hotel tax. Can we get it on the table?
Motion, second.
Let's try to correct the, just that reference to it. I don't think it matters, it's fine. The resolution itself is fine. All right, so this was we do have a hotel tax. When we adopted it, we agreed with the hotels that because the hotels and their patrons are paying the tax, that 50% of the revenue that came from the hotel tax would go toward tourism-related efforts. Since then, we have allocated about $100,000 of tourism grant monies to various events and programs throughout Nyack. And right now we have in front of us, we do it about twice a year. This is the winter round of grants. And we allocated about $51,000 in funds to 19 different organizations. Why don't you come up, Thomas, if anybody has any questions. You can see the amounts, you can see we did have over $110,000 of requests. So almost everybody that requested money didn't get their entire request. Very few people got their full request. Also, I would advise that with some of these events, we noted the business council that reviewed this noted that some of these events will take place in the fall or are events that are taking place periodically through the year, with many of the events in the fall. And there was another round of funding in June, July. So we pushed off about what we anticipate to be another $15,000 of grants for some of these worthy organizations to push off to the summer, where we anticipate doing another $15,000 for them on the completion of their programs. And then look at, on top of that, whatever comes out of the applications in that process. I will also point out that we've been very cautious about allocating the funds that the tourism grant, that the hotel tax has generated more money than we have. More money where if you took half of it, we've given out less than we could have at this point. We're being a little careful about making sure we don't run it too close. So, Tomas, anything you want to say about the process or about the applications?
No, well, it's as you already said, Joe, this is our fourth round. So this is something that was introduced 2 years ago. I think it's working extremely well. And in summary, I think if you look across all these 19 applications which were awarded, I think it's a testament to the creativity and the agility of our town, having 19, many of them non-profits, volunteer organizations coming up with great ideas how to bring tourists into our village. I think which is a good follow-up to the discussion here before. What we all need is to support our downtown businesses. And we know that if events are happening, that brings people into town. This is not just for the event itself, but many times they come back and they go shopping here, they go to our retail operations. So I think these new tourism trains have a very strategic value for the village, and I appreciate the support from the Board of Trustees over the last 2 years to continue with this program.
Any questions or comments from the board? I actually, I'll ask him, and then I'll ask Richard Quinn to come up just to say, I don't know if there's anybody else from any of the other grantees that's here, but he came out, so I wanted, he's for the Nyack International Film Festival, which got $5,000 as part of the thing. All right, why don't you go and tell us about the film festival and what we're helping to fund?
Sure. Thank you. Nice to see you tonight.
Nice to see you.
And thanks for the tourism grants. They do bring in lots of people. Everyone says that people buy houses after they come here. I'm sure street fair or something. Last year, we were on News 12, and people I knew on Staten Island grew up with, I was getting a couple of phone calls because they saw us on Staten Island. We were on News 12 throughout the entire New York City, Long Island, and Westchester. And we had more people than ever last year. We actually packed the room and sold out, standing room only. specifically for the Hendrix evenings, but the other evenings were very well attended. Over 200 people each night, and that was really good. We're looking forward to this year. We also have 7 nights, and I've begun a poster here. These will go everywhere.
What's the kickoff date?
Kickoff date is March 30th, Sunday afternoon. We have an opening party. We have a DJ that's going to be playing music from the films, soundtracks, and a lot of the films have songs. So we're going to give the musicians, the composers, extra exposure and just to promote that aspect of the film that comes with music and sound. We're gonna have a DJ for the opening party, then we're going to play some trailers, probably about 45 minutes of trailers. Then we'll watch the first film, probably around 5 o'clock, and get out by 10 on Sunday. And then we continue through Saturday night, which is the finale night, and that's the 7th night. So the hotel's been pretty good, even though they're under new management. And so we're looking forward to it. We hope everyone can attend. Boom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for. Any comments or questions about the grants?
Yeah, I have a problem with this. I hate to be a wet blanket. Every time the grant proposal is made, there's a bit of presentation going over all of the various applicants. I only received the actual list today.
I'm sorry, I didn't send the full 168-page set of applications around until Joe reminded me today that I hadn't sent it.
Yeah, I saw that it was on the agenda, and basically, I think that, look, I'm not gonna say that I'm against it, but I'd like to learn about all the various grant applications and just understand what I'm voting for. You know, we are stewards of the village taxpayers, their monies. And I think maybe Tomas would be willing next meeting to just give the presentations before, which is great, very informative. And I think that's very important for us to make that informed decision.
I'd be happy. I think that, you know, what we had hoped to do and what I thought had happened, but it did not apparently, was that the actual applications with all the information was sent to you so that you could review it and see like actually the explanations and the application and the full discourse rather than the summary that Tomas would be able to give. And also, I like to try to keep situations where if there's information that needs to be conveyed, we convey it to you before the meeting rather than take up time after the meeting to give PowerPoint presentations. But if you'd like the PowerPoint presentation, we can do it at the next meeting. But I would say that time is a little bit of the essence in getting the grants forward. So I will assure you that there's nothing you would hear which would say to you, oh my God, I can't believe they're funding this, or I can't believe they're not funding this more. We spent a lot of time going through these and
or at least give us time to review the material that was sent out today.
And you want to put, I mean, the problem is that 2 weeks is, I mean, these things are, they need to get funded.
Are they time sensitive?
Yeah, a lot of them are time sensitive. I mean, Thomas, you can tell me more than that, but we had hoped to actually maybe do it the last meeting because we really did want to get, you know, these are applications that were first made back in November, December.
Yeah, the initial idea was that we would approve it already in January.
Yeah.
We couldn't get to a business council meeting because a lot of the business council members, they were busy the holiday seasons.
Yeah.
So that's why.
That's why it got pushed to January, which just got pushed to.
So we are already
February.
late in the game now. Some of the events will happen.
I realize, Joe, I realize that you take that very seriously, the stewardship of the money. I will tell you that I was in every interview with every one of these people. I looked through every page of the applications, as did Andy, as did Tomas, as did many members of the business council. And there was a lot of moving $500 here, $500 there, because we wanted to make sure that we allocated correctly. So I'm willing to say that if after the presentation you have concerns about any of these, that the money will not have been allocated at that point. There's very little money will have been spent, but we'd like to give the people the notice that they've got the grants. If there is something that at some point you say that the board disagrees with, we could always make an adjustment after the next meeting.
Okay.
But I'd like to vote on them. I'd like to have them voted on at least, conditionally on that, yeah.
Additionally, I'm
We
willing.
can always change the numbers.
I just need a chance to go over the, just to look at the.
You should have had it. I mean, that was, I thought we had sent it out to you, with the packets and all that stuff. We just didn't want to put it publicly because there's a lot of information there that isn't necessarily for the public.
I do agree with Joe Carlin, sorry, Joe.
What?
I know, I said I do agree with you. We did do a presentation last time, just to at least know what some of these grants are. I usually use that to ask my usual questions, like of these events, which ones are free? Of the people who are putting these programs forward, who are Nyack residents, who are, are we getting our communities an impact? Are we talking to people of color? That is usually what we do address in some of these presentations, even if I don't need to see the details cause I do recognize that it's sensitive information for the public, but I do like to have an idea of what type of events are happening and how they
Right.
will.
I take full responsibility for that, because I was the one that said that we didn't need the presentation because it takes up a lot of time, the meeting on.
27th.
Joe, I do recognize that, but we did talk about having more workshops for things like this, so that we.
Workshop on this particular issue?
Well, I meant workshop as a presentation, so we just know about it. That is what we did. We did do a workshop and then we just voted on the resolution.
I don't remember doing this workshop, but that's, then I made a mistake, and I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I am sorry about that. Forgive it. Thank you. But I would like, for purposes of, as a preliminary approval, pending the presentation, simply because I'd like to give notice to people that are waiting. I mean, like Richard, I mean, they're marketing that right now. The International Film Festival starts in about 7 weeks.
We started November 1st.
Yeah, so we're late on that process, but,
So, a conditional approval, I'm okay with, I think Pascal is also.
Yep.
And, yeah.
all right. So with that understanding that we might in 2 weeks have some adjustments made to some of the amounts, we'll approve this as a preliminary amount. All right, with that understanding, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And Tomas, fire up the PowerPoint. How do you want the PowerPoint again? Thank you for that.
But just quickly, how should I communicate this to the grantees, what you guys just decided? Would it say it's conditional?
I think say it's preliminary determination that they, you can invite them to be here at the next meeting.
Invite them to, yeah, it would be nice, just so.
Invite them to be here at the next
we know
meeting
who's doing what.
and advise them that it might not be a bad idea if they are concerned about, that maybe there would be adjustments. I mean, if you look at the list, I don't think there's any. A lot of these organizations that are awarded or organizations you're familiar with. So I don't know that you would say, well, I can't believe we're giving any money to the Rockland Pride Center or whatever.
I just want to see the presentation.
But you want to see the presentation?
Yeah, like,
All right,
I
well,
like, if I-
razzmatazz.
Well, I just, like, cause just seeing the names of them, I'm sort of like, okay, what is actually gonna happen? Is it gonna be a street closure? Is it just using the square? Like, that's
Okay.
also what
All
I'm
right.
thinking.
That's a fair point. All right. Next up, 7.3, resolution 25-14. Approve the 23rd annual Day in the Life of the Hudson event in Morrow Park on October 15, 2025. Can I get it on the table?
Second.
This is you love this one, right? Yeah, this is always a fun one. This is the River Day. And they always come and give us the reports that they took from when they analyzed the river. Of course, we want to approve this. Anybody have any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7.4, resolution 25-15 to approve a permit application for an event in Memorial Park and Veterans Memorial Square by Louise Newsom on October 4th and October 5th, 2025. This, can I get this on the table?
Second.
This is the craft vendor market. It's been proposed into the business council. A lot of people have already heard about it, who are in the business community that like it. It's gonna incorporate vendors, outside vendors to crafts, but also all local businesses that want to participate will be on the event map. And we've had this presentation a few times and talked about it. It's a new date for it. So that's all it's changed. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 7.5, resolution 25-16 to approve a handicap parking space on South Franklin Street. Can I get on the table?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I passed by there today. There is a handicap parking place. That's within the limit.
This board gave it preliminary approval, and so we went ahead and started installing the post.
The early bird gets.
All right, well, we got, it's good to get it out there. It's good to get, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 7.6, resolution 25-17. Permit application for an event in Nyack Marina by Jen Nazaro, Rockland County Director of Economic Development from October 9th to 11th, 2025. Can I get on the table?
Second.
All right, this requires a little bit of explanation. There is a roving exhibit on 9/11 called the Tunnel to Towers Mobile Exhibit. It travels around the country. Anne Marie Tilsty, the confidential assistant to the village administrator, got wind of it and tracked it down and actually did a wonderful job in getting them to bring this exhibit to Nyack, which they're going to do. And she approached Jen Rosario, who's the Director of Economic Development for the county. And together they were able to secure the Tunnel to Towers mobile exhibit coming to visit us. It's going to be in the Marina parking lot, not Memorial Park, Marina parking lot, October 9th to 11th. I just had a meeting today with Jenna, and this is going to be a really big deal. It's going to be open. It's open basically daytime and nighttime. They bring schools. Those are school trips that will visit. It's a mobile exhibit. So you walk through and you see the story of 9/11, which kids today, they don't understand it. So it's important for us to keep them mindful of it. There's going to be a number of other events that surround it, many of which I think will be really good for the downtown. It's going to bring a lot of people to the community from all over Rockland County and maybe the Hudson Valley, because it doesn't appear, anywhere nearby anytime soon. You might ask, well, why October, not September? You can imagine that this mobile unit is very much in demand around 9/11 itself, as it's also very much in demand for 2026 because of the 250 Rev 250, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the country. But this is really wonderful. I'm sure we're going to approve it, but I just want to thank, on the record, I want to thank Anne Marie, I want to thank Jenna for the work they did to put this together, because it's really going to be great. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? October 9th to 11th. It's like a Wednesday through Friday. It goes into the, hold on.
I only asked because I remember like the first 9/11 day of silence was on March 11th. So.
It starts on Thursday. It starts on Wednesday night, and it runs Thursday, Friday, and then they pick it up on Saturday. So really 2 full days of display. We voted on that, right? All in favor? We got it?
Yes.
All right. Now, resolution 2518, consenting to planning board lead agency status concerning 80 South Broadway. Andy, getting on the table, please.
Second.
All right, Andy, you want to just give us a quick update what this is about?
So this is the Murray's gas station application. Actually, Dennis is probably better at explaining why it is that the secret can be done by, I guess, either the village board or the planning board. Dennis?
It's useful.
But usually the planning board just does these things, so.
So you all know secret is state environment water UAC. That can generally predominantly there's one lead agency that handles the environment and the secret. And the other involved agencies, which are the other boards that have approval authority over some aspect of the project, cannot take final action. They could deny an application, but that's another discussion for another day. They cannot approve a project until the lead agency under SECRA issues what's called a negative declaration. A negative declaration is actually a good thing for the environment. It means that there will be no potential for significant adverse environmental impacts caused by the project. So a negative declaration is actually a good thing. So the other involved agencies, again, cannot approve of a project until the lead agency issues its negative declaration on it. So if the planning board is the lead agency, you, as the involved agency, because you have the special use permit approval authority over this project, you cannot approve of the special use permit until the planning board issues its neg deck, which is negative declaration. Now, does that mean you can't hear from the applicant, get a presentation from the applicant, ask the applicant questions, perhaps even give an informal sort of preliminary special permit, special use permit approval? Yes, you can do that. We have nothing in our code that lays out a preliminary approval, whether it's a site development plan or a special use permit or a variance. There's no such thing in the village of Nyack zoning code. But you can give a signal, you can vocalize an indication to the applicant. Okay, this is something that we would find palatable, this is something that we're receptive to. You certainly can do that. So what I would recommend is that you allow the applicant at the soonest meeting that it's ready to be presented to you. I think Manny is going to be providing the board of trustees with the application materials when it's ready, after Manny's given his building department, building inspector review. I would encourage that you allow the applicant to come before you for the special use permit review, knowing that you can't approve it yet, but you can certainly ask questions, you can even invite comment from the public, although it's not set up for a public hearing yet. And give feedback to the applicant. Give some indication to the applicant what you might be favorable to, what is something that you find, like I said, palatable for you to approve as part of a special use permit.
How can we get approval? We got a preliminary approval without seeing scope of the project.
That's what I just said. You would ask the applicant to present to you the scope of the project, knowing that you can't approve it yet until the planning board issues its negative declaration. And as I explained to Manny and Bob, our village planner, and Andy, that the planning board cannot grant a special use permit. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg, but it's not that bad. Because what the planning board would do as part of its environmental review, it has to look at the potential significant and adverse environmental impacts that might be caused by a project that could be developed. So they would have to review it under, not the assumption, but under the possibility that there would be a fourth story, the fourth floor going up. I think the maximum would be 48 feet, if I recall correctly. And what the applicant is proposing would have to be considered by the planning board, even though the planning board wouldn't be able to grant its final site development plan approval until it goes to you guys for the special use permit approval. So here is final sentence or two. Goes to the planning board, they do their environmental review, ultimately, possibly, if it's appropriate, they may not find it appropriate, but the goal of the applicant would be to get that negative declaration from the planning board. In the interim, it can come before you preliminarily, get your feedback, let you chew on it a bit and digest and give some feedback to the applicant. Then go back to the planning board, issues its negative declaration, then you can then grant the special use permit if you find it appropriate. And then it would go back to the planning board for final site development plan approval, and at that point, the planning board could grant the fourth story. If your special use permit is granted for the fourth story in the 48 feet, the planning board could grant site plan approval based upon that. That's in a nutshell. In the mix is the potential of the ZBA. I understand that the most recent proposal from the applicant does not require any variances, but that could change. So the ZBA would be thrown into the mix, and they would be just like you. They would have to wait for the planning board to grant its negative declaration for the ZBA to grant the variances. But the planning board would have to consider the potential significant adverse environmental impacts that might be caused by any of those variances. So that's thrown into the mix. I believe the ARB has already approved this application, so I don't think we'd have to be bouncing around with the ARB, but I'll leave that to Manny, but I believe the ARB is already granted final approval.
Dominic? Yeah.
Dominic's the engineer, architect on the project.
So one real simple question, why can't the village board of trustees make a conditional approval? Why are we going around in a circle? All they have to do is review it, give a conditional approval for the neg deck. Go back to planning board, get the neg deck, you get the approval.
The conditional approval is an approval, Don.
It's not an approval, what I'm saying is, the applicant can't be in limbo either, right? So what you're suggesting is this, like you said, chicken or the egg, what's coming first? You go in front of the village board looks at it, fine, we could do a preliminary review, I'm happy to do that. They review it. We get to the point where we know what they want. It's conditional. We meet their conditionals, and the only condition that we're waiting for is the neg deck from the planning board.
He's asking a
The
question.
problem is the word approval. No involved, you know this as well as I know, no involved agency can give any kind of approval, whether you wanna call it conditional approval or some other approval. A preliminary approval is not the same as a conditional approval. Now, our code does not define it. We don't have a preliminary approval process, a lot of municipalities do. But I think a preliminary approval, an informal one, because again, it's not codified in our local law, I think achieves the same goal that you just commented. Why can't you give a conditional approval? Well, that's what I'm talking about. Preliminary approval is akin to what you're suggesting. It's just not an approval.
Right, but the way you just described it a moment ago was going back and forth, there's two meetings and you're not really sure of anything, right? And that puts the applicant in a very precarious situation, right? I can't go forward with moving out the engineering when we hang in the balance for the fourth floor.
It's like if you're a lobbyist presenting a law and you're going for the US House of Representatives, going for the Senate. The House.
All right, guys, we're well beyond the scope of what's actually in front of the.
Bouncing back and forth between the House and the Senate, and they have to.
So if the preliminary.
It's an analogy, maybe a weak one, but it's an analogy.
All right, Dennis, I get it. But there has to be some comfort factor, that's all I'm saying, fine, it doesn't get officially codified or whatever, but I have to have more or less, I know it's going to happen, so I can.
I think the point is, and I'll just tell you this. If and when we issue the special permit on whatever has to be decided, if that's not completed, is it possible that could be completed while we're in the process of deliberating the special permit, correct? The process in front of the planning board, the secret process. The environmental.
Yeah.
Could the negative declaration, could that be achieved while we're in the process of looking at the special permit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that might get done, at which point the special permit would now be final and complete. Or if it's not
You have to
complete,
wait for the neg deck from the planning board, but while the planning board is considering the neg deck,
we can evaluate, yes. I understand.
Right, I would need to be in front of you guys, understanding that this is something that is favorable, right? Because I can't go down that road incomplete unless I know this will happen, otherwise I have to change everything.
Who knows what I'm comfortable with an informal polling of a board. I always encourage the land use boards to say,
No, we're just gonna, wait.
Yeah, but
no, not tonight,
no,
not to
does that
give
entail,
some feedback.
does a special permit decision entail a public hearing?
I'd have to check. I think it does, but I'm not
So-
100%. Maybe not.
This is public. Public.
I don't think you've ever done this before. I don't think that special permit has ever been used.
Well, no, we've got special.
Not for a fourth floor.
All right, we don't need to get, right now, all we're trying to decide is whether we're gonna make the planning board the lead agency for the secret, right? That's all that's on the board for
I think that's it.
that's the only resolution that's here right now. So let's do that. Let's understand that. I think in fairness to the applicant, if and when we do review the special permit, we should do it in a timely way. And if we do make a decision, the decision should be firm, like not, even if it's the kind of thing that we're still waiting for the secret, we should make a decision one way or the other.
You can give a clear signal to the applicant what would be.
The signal for me is a vote.
Yeah, we,
It would be upon my counsel, I would tell you that this is not binding, it's a non-binding straw poll. It's a non-binding straw poll, is that something that an
All right.
applicant is gonna be 100% comfortable with? No.
I'm calling the question, all in favor of the resolution to assign the lead agency to the planning board?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We'll cross other bridges when we come to the other bridges. 7.8 resolution 25-19 to create a third parking enforcement aide full-time position. Can I get it on the table? We have a part-time position right now. We're gonna elevate that to a full-time position with the intention on doing more parking enforcement on weekends when we've not had sufficient enforcement. We've had a raft of people blocking driveways and parking in front of hydrants and various other illegal parking along New Street where there is no parking allowed, and parking in illegal spaces that makes it difficult for the fire department to exit from their Park Street location. So we're gonna be hopefully doing more enforcement in places where we need enforcement. It's not necessarily gonna be during the week, during meter times, but outside the meter times. Any comments or questions?
I got an email that it was needed to delay this.
No, this is being approved, just we're not approving an individual for the position yet. An individual, there was, the old resolution had an individual that we were proposing, but we have to get through a civil service thing first. Yes, that's all we're doing. So that we can have the person working a little bit more hours. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye, all right, item 8. You have a question about that resolution?
Yes, regarding that, but not enforcement that.
We can't.
No, we can't hear you.
I think the enforcement that we have had in the village, it has driven people out of here already for a few years that I know. And more enforcement, I don't think is gonna do anything good for the village and invite more, introducing people as a friendly village to bring more people in. In Piermont, they don't do that, and it is very invasive for people when they get a ticket, they won't come back. I know that they don't come back. When you go somewhere yourself, if you go to some other town or village and they give you a ticket, are you inclined to go back there again?
I don't get tickets because I pay for my parking.
But anybody who goes from out of town and comes here for shopping and supporting the restaurant, when they get a ticket, they're not coming back. And I've seen it.
Understood, recognize that we're talking now about having somebody who is gonna be patrolling during non-metered hours to give tickets to people who are parking in front of fire hydrants and blocking driveways and parking in.
That is happening that warrants
A
the
lot.
money, the cost that it takes to pay someone to be watching all of this. You have to add the cost and the.
I know.
And does it pay to do that?
Just to be clear, this position is not strictly for certain times. It's a part of a team that will expand its coverage to provide enforcement of safety parking issues outside of metered hours. But this position is not strictly dedicated solely
This person is gonna do that.
to outside of metered hours.
All right, moving on to department reports, Orangetown Police Department. Andy, you want to summarize the meeting with the OPD?
Hold on a second.
Oh,
The mayor and I, is this working? Met with the Orangetown Police Department to discuss a few salient issues that the village has been concerned about. One of them has to do with open containers on Main Street, particularly in front of the card shop. And safety issues related to that. I'm trying to remember the other topics we discussed, Mayor. The development of our unarmed safety patrol position. We have a candidate who we're very excited about. We haven't been able to actually sign him up yet. He had flu last week, so we had to keep rescheduling. But we're looking forward to having him complete his civil service application, getting approval from civil service, and getting him on the team to patrol the downtown area and the park at odd hours to try to limit disorderly behavior and provide more sense of safety to the visiting public and folks on the sidewalks.
And the police indicated their approval of hiring somebody and that they would help, you know, orient that person into the position and coordinate with them as much as possible.
Yeah, they're.
And we talked about the enforcing curfew in the park. That was the other issue.
Right, just to follow up on folks leaving luggage or camping gear in the park and its removal. And they continue to do their outreach to individuals, as we've talked about many times. Making referrals to various social services and so on.
Did you speak to them about, I keep on harping on this, a dedicated police parking spot in that area in front of Cars Plus and Olives?
No, but that's what we're looking at for the village. That's actually looking at 10.3. We're doing it ourselves. Rather than have them, because they've expressed a disinterest in doing that before, so we haven't pushed it, especially because we now have an opportunity to do it on our own. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Village attorney, any report?
No, thank you.
We closed out that case, right? We got a check, I saw a check out clear.
Yeah, it's closed.
That chapter is over. Village administrator's report.
Just a couple of items. We're in the process of formalizing a committee for our shoreline path. This is a project which is funded by New York State Department of State for about $500,000. It requires a local advisory group. The members of that group have to be approved by the Department of State. So we did an outreach effort and we've got a number of wonderful people who are showing interest. And we're starting to put that committee together. If a village board member would like to serve on that committee, I think we could probably get you guys through their vetting process, or in any case, informally.
I told Henry that I would volunteer.
Okay. So that process is coming along. It's an exciting project. We have an understanding and a scope of services agreement with the Brooker Engineering landscape architect Daniel Biggs, who will provide facilitate design workshops and input from the community as we move towards having a beautiful shoreline pathway design with landscaping features and other kinds of furnishings. So that project's coming a little bit. The Community Development Block Grant Committee met once. There's another meeting scheduled for next week. We have some very active participation and a number of exciting ideas to propose to the county for funding. And we'll talk about more of that. Eventually, the village board will get a report from that committee and decide which project to submit for funding.
With regard to that committee for the path, I did talk to Jen Rosario. She'll be happy to join them.
That's great. She was one of our recruitment targets.
So can I say something?
We're gonna have an opportunity for public comment in about probably 5 minutes on any issue. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
On this or any other issue as we go through.
Next, I wanted to mention that the climate change adaptation planning process is moving forward. We had a stakeholder meeting here, I think it was yesterday, with probably about 10 or 15 people in it representing various local organizations, talking about and learning about how climate change effects will have to be handled. We've done a lot of work on emissions reduction work, as you know, with the EV chargers and the energy efficiency work. But this planning process is not about that. It's about how we as a community can strengthen ourselves in the face of predicted changes, things like heat waves, things like more extreme precipitation and flooding, things like the shoreline effects from higher tides and storm surges and sea level and so on. So that planning process is developing. There's a bunch of flyers here and there's some by the entryway. There's a survey, which we're hoping that members of the public will use this QR code to answer some questions about what you're seeing and what concerns you have that can be factored in by this planning process. And there's a follow-up meeting on March 24th at 7 o'clock at the NIAC Center, where the larger community will be convened by this steering committee. And these topics will be discussed in greater depth, and the results of the survey will be reviewed and analyzed and presented as well. So we encourage the public to join in this process of thinking about how our community can strengthen itself in the face of various climate change impacts. Let's see, I want to mention also that our budget process is beginning. As village boards knows, our fiscal year runs through the end of May, but we need to adopt the budget for years 26 and 27. Rather 25, 26.
Yeah,
In,
the same thing today.
it's fiscal year kind of spans 2 years. We'll have to, maybe the next meeting, we'll start thinking about scheduling some extra budget planning meetings. And for March, so that we can have adequate time to go through the March and April, yeah. It's due by mid to late April. The budget, the final budget adoption is. So we're starting that process. I look forward to working with the board on that, providing you lots of information about how we're doing financially.
You said it's due April 1st?
Right?
due
No, not due on April 1st, it's due
May
at
1st.
late April,
Oh,
early May.
So just do May.
Yeah. I have to double check. I think it's end of April, but we can double check
The
that.
fiscal year starts in May, right?
It starts in June, it starts on June 1st, but the budget needs to be adopted before that. So I'll go over the schedule with you next meeting, okay?
I'm just gonna warn everybody that we might be a little late with the like the budget process might go a little deeper into the period where we're comfortable doing it because we don't have a treasurer right now. So right now, we are not, you know, we're looking, we've met with many candidates. We're looking at, we are very hopeful right now at that we have a possibility. But we need a treasurer to put this together. And even when they start, when that person starts, that person would have to get themselves acclimated before they can start with the budget. So the budget season might be a little back weighted for purposes of, so figure out what the adoption date is, and let's think about the 2 weeks before that being weeks that we might actually have to have a couple extra meetings to make sure we go through it.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna end up being back weighted.
Great, let's go over the budget calendar next meeting and get specific about it for sure.
All right. Thank you. Yeah,
I have, what's the status with the DRI and North Forward?
we don't know.
There's
We don't
been
hear.
no response yet from the state as to who they're funding.
The state will, what'll happen is you will wake up one morning and there will be an announcement that
Don't say that.
that somebody has, or you will wake up one morning and we'll have the governor here in
Say
Nyack,
that.
so one of the, well, I mean, there will be an announcement that we will not know about until a day or so before. And the public won't know about until the day of, because it's all very hush hush.
Can I make a request? You did this last year. Current projects with grant funding and so forth. Can we get an update on that?
Sure,
For next meeting?
sure. The capital projects rundown,
Capital
sure.
projects,
Absolutely.
grants and where we're at with that. Just, I keep on hearing on all these projects, and I'd like just to see.
I'm all in place. All right, anything else, Andy?
Nope.
Do we have any old business?
No, but we have a bunch of things under new business.
Okay, so let's get to new business. Let me start at the bottom, 10.4 local ID cards. We are, some municipalities in Rockland and probably across the country have started to create identification cards, which have your address on them that are official from their village or town for the purpose of helping people to identify that they're residents and whatnot for purposes of if they get pulled over or something happens in the environment that we're in right now. So we have, I think Haverstraw what's Haverstraw?
Village Haverstraw.
Village of Haverstraw. So we got a model for what the form looks like. You go and you pay $10 or something like that. You fill out a form, you give a proof of residency, and then we issue you a card. We have to buy the machine and then we have to start the process. But I think if we haven't, it's not ready for resolution, but it's something I want to get the sense of the board about. I think this is something we should do. And I think it's a good idea.
I will say as well that if we get the couple $1,000s for the card making machine and adopt a policy as to how to run that program, we could also use the ID cards for village employees who are out in the public. It would be handy for them to have cards as well, so.
So you all get an ID card, Nyack trustee.
I mean, it's actually pretty useful. If you're on the planning board and you're going out and looking at sites, to have an ID
Official
card.
ID
If
card, yeah.
you're a meter reader with a water department.
So understand, so it would just be for any community member to have, if they wanted it?
I'll share with you a draft of the policy, okay, it's It's a card which verifies your identity and the fact that you're a village resident.
Okay, does it have any legal binding authority?
It
That's
does
my
have
concern.
uses, people use them to help establish their identity when they're opening a bank account, for example, getting a library card. Other kinds of things.
Some people don't have driver's license.
So, and they're offered to children as well, so that it's a, but I'll share the draft policy from
Yeah.
West Havershaw.
Yeah,
And,
can you-
and the village board can have further discussion about the merits of that kind of program, for sure.
Yeah, the constable.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's any liability from the village on that. So let's see the West Haverstraw, let's see what they.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to say Village of Haverstraw, but I have not researched this as a policy at all, so I can't answer any detailed questions about it.
I mean, I can see it for village employees right now, I mean, as it is, but, and I understand the utility for residents. But I just like to understand the scope of it and what it is entails.
Yeah, me too, me too.
Anyway, it's.
Also, if you-
we'll pursue it.
Yeah, do you know any other towns or villages outside of Rockland doing this at all?
I know the city of Middletown had a program a while back, I remember talking with the mayor about it, but. I think a number of places in the state of New York and across the country have provided local IDs.
Okay.
For various purposes, but I just don't know a lot about those policies right now.
Yeah, and, well, if you have time, it would be nice to find out just to get an idea.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, next item, public safety. We are very close to getting somebody to finally take over the public safety patrol person. Who would be really perfect for the job, and thanks to Joe Carlin. Fingers crossed that this person actually gets put into the position. And one of the things that person had suggested was that we have some sort of official vehicle that person could drive, you know, for part of it to go from the marina up to Midtown, up to, you know, the upper part of Maine and whatnot, without having to drive, particularly in inclement weather, without having to walk from place to place, but also so that he could park it right where we want it parked, in front of the card store when it's not being used, and he's doing his, you know, walk around the beat.
There's a Blues Brothers car, by the way, for sale, with the big speaker on top.
Okay, yeah, we'll look at that. We'll look at the speaker on top. It's good for PR, public address announcements. We just sort of did a quick search for, like, you know, police cars that are no longer being used and are being sold at auction and whatnot, and this might be something that we do for $10,000 to $12,000 to get. We don't need a car that, you know, we don't care if it's got 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 miles on it. We're not gonna be driving it that much. It's really for show and for short trips, but is everybody okay with at least us continuing to investigate it? We're not gonna buy anything without getting approval.
Yeah.
All good. All right, number 10.2, the 9/11 memorial. This is another Anne Marie Tilsey issue. This has nothing to do with the 9/11 display that we're doing on in October. This is separate. This would be a plaque, or, well, we don't know what it's gonna be. It could be a plaque, it could be a stone, it could be a statue, it could be something that would function as a 9/11 memorial along the new path that is being built along the waterfront. That we have something to honor Wells Crowther at the on the upper level of the lawn, but there's nothing for other, you know, members of our community who were lost during 9/11. It is Memorial Park. It's an appropriate place to put it. We have a memorial there for the Brinks robbery victims and the heroes from that event. And it seems appropriate for us to do something for 9/11. We're working with Kira Levesque on the design of it. Who's another local architect. We're also working with, we're gonna be approaching the families that are, for the family members that would be, if we wanted to list the names, to get their approval of whether we'd be able to. If we didn't use the names, then we would just identify the people lost without using names.
And, oops, sorry. And, those who passed away from 9/11 related in
Yes,
concern?
that would be included, yes, we include that, those as well. And we probably, if we did put names, then what would probably happen is there'd be an amount, there'd be a, you know, what happened on 9/11 on the front. And then on the back would be a way to inscribe the names with leaving space for, because unfortunately there may be further names that we add to the 6 that we currently recognize every year in our 9/11 ceremony. Any comments or questions on that? Just want to get a general sense that we're keep going forward with it. Okay. And then the next thing, last year, for the first time, at least first time in memory, we did the Independence Day fireworks from a barge over, out on the water, rather than doing it in Memorial Park. It made a big difference, because if you do them in Memorial Park, then no one can watch the fireworks from Memorial Park except for the upper level. If you do them offshore, you can watch them from, well, you couldn't watch from the lawn last year, but you can watch from the lawn this coming year, or you can watch from the waterfront, you can watch from the asphalt that's in the park, and all those other places. It opens up a lot more seating area for that. However, the cost of doing the fireworks is gonna go up significantly this year, because we probably got a deal out of some ignorance on the part of the fireworks operator, who didn't realize how much more expensive it would be for him to do it offshore. So we've always budgeted about $20,000 for it. This might be closer to $30,000 or $35,000 to do it. Now, we can budget for it, but another possibility for doing it would be to look for sponsorships, to have the fireworks display run through the Parks Conservancy, and then have sponsorships for the event that would be recognized on materials that relate to the fireworks and things like that. And as part of the sponsorships, we're looking at setting aside some space for the sponsors to be able to have a viewing area for the fireworks. Now, it would be a set aside area that would be just reserved for them. I recognize that there's a issue with that, but I will just recognize that if we do not get the money to be able to do it offshore, then we lose a ton of seating, not just a little bit of seating. This would be a little bit of seating. We don't have to make a decision today. I just wanted to mention, I want to put it out publicly, that we're going to be looking at the possibility of, rather than have the taxpayers pick up the full cost of this, which is really not fair to the Nyack taxpayer, because it's an event that goes for the whole county, not just for the, not just Nyack residents. And to be able to offset some of the costs of it and make it a better event by moving the fireworks offshore. Does that basically capture that?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that we have a lot of talented people in this community, and sort of advice and sort of guidance on programming, the music and the PA system for that event would be welcome. We really had wonderful contributions from DJ Marley Marl and the radio station that he works with. But I think there's more opportunities to refine and kind of plan the audio side of the program in the late afternoon, early evening.
And also I want us to already start thinking about 2026 fireworks, which will be the 250th celebration, and what we want to do that we make it even more special for that year. Any comments, questions?
I don't mind sponsorships, but I do mind a viewing section for them.
That's the problem. I don't know if we get the sponsorships without the viewing section. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a free, like, we already try not to make exclusive use of parts of the park anyway, so that's my hiccup. But I do agree there are not a lot of Nyack people. My only actual suggestion is in the vein of what everyone else is saying. If we're gonna have a smoke-free park, we really need to enforce it on 4th of July, especially on 4th of July. If there's the one thing that one of the biggest complaints was the smell of marijuana.
That's a very good point. I 100% agree.
So I'm fine doing it, but that's the one thing I will ask, is that we kind of need to tighten up the enforcement.
We'll talk more about it. We don't have a.
Yeah, no, I know
I
that's.
sent a memo about it. So we
Yeah.
don't- so I don't-
I
once
might have
this is
missed that.
informal.
Andy, is there a, your email said it was urgent, we needed to make a decision soon to secure the date.
We have a proposed contract for about $29,500 from the fireworks company that we worked with last year. And I would like the village board to at least say verbally whether you're willing to agree to that
So
or
this
not.
is a different company?
No.
No, the same one from last year.
It's charging us more because he undercharged us last year for it. At least that's what he says, which I actually believe him, because I think that he seemed legitimately stressed about how much more went into doing fireworks offshore.
Yeah, the North River Shipworks donated the barge last year. It's probably worth $10,000 or $15,000. They've agreed to donate it again. So we're good on that. They will donate it.
All right.
They promised that, and they're actually, they like working with the fireworks guy from last year, so I would feel more comfortable if we rehired the same guy again. because they seem to work together.
We're gonna do the fireworks offshore, however we're gonna find a way to do it. If we have to just budget more money for the fireworks this year, we will. So I would say we're fine with that contract, it does it makes a qualitative difference to the quality of the fireworks to do them offshore.
No, I think it really does,
All right.
and my mom likes it, so.
And we'll figure out the money, we'll figure out how to pay for it
She makes me
in
go
the coming months. Any communications that we have to highlight?
There was an email that I shared with the board earlier this week, and right now I can't actually remember its time. I think it might have to do with cannabis.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
It was
it
one of
It was sent to the board.
Entered into the record, Wilcox, James.
No, it's from Mr. Dawson.
Oh, Dawson, yeah, James Dawson, sorry, James Dawson. Wilcox,
About
James
the
Dawson.
medical dispensary.
So yeah, get that into the record as well. You wrote a very thoughtful letter about it.
Two other things, actually.
Okay, quick.
Are you gonna talk about the meeting with the fire department?
Oh, yeah, another new business item is we did have a meeting yesterday with the fire chiefs, I think I mentioned at the top of the meeting. To talk about enhancing public safety, trying to reduce the number of false alarms, trying to be more aggressive about pursuing the people who get multiple false alarms and aren't doing anything to fix their systems. False alarms are extremely demotivating to our volunteer firefighters because if they get called out of, from their homes, woken up in the middle of the night, take time off from work as they hear the horn, and they go out, if there's a fire, there's action, that's what they're there for. But they're not there because somebody accidentally tripped a wire, or there's workmen and they don't know how to turn off the fire alarm before they start their work and they accidentally cut a wire, which is what always happens. And there are some really bad repeat offenders of buildings that, I don't want to talk about them publicly, but there are some really bad buildings that they have 20 or 30 false alarms in a year.
Do we find them?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what they want to make sure that we find them. We might actually be looking at a revision of the legislation to increase the fines. Especially if they get, because the fines cap out at $15,000 for 15 false alarms, but people have had more than 15, so we've been capped out on going after more fines on them. It was a very good meeting. Some of the other issues, we're gonna be giving them a report every month on things that they find useful information, like all the alarm results, false alarms and whatnot. Also, about inspections that have been completed in the prior month, because our building department is going to be inspecting every commercial multifamily, I think it's commercial and multifamily and 2-family, not residential or single family.
No, it's 3-family and up.
3-family and up, they're gonna be
Commercial.
inspecting them every year, single family residential every 3 years. And they wanna know which places were inspected, and things like that, so it was a really good meeting. We're very grateful for the people that volunteer to be our firefighters here in Nyack, that what they do is really wonderful work, and it was wonderful to meet with them and to talk about what they were concerned about. What else? There's something else?
I wanted to mention lastly that you and I sat down with the Hudson Valley Mural Arts.
Yes.
And it's really an important project. Dominic Pillis building is one of the buildings that with preliminary interest in hosting a mural on Main Street there. There's a couple of others. This board needs to think a little bit about how to manage the social process around sort of choosing mural designs and things like that. But the Hudson Valley Mural Arts people have proposed a really wonderful process by which design can take place with community input, the input of the building owner, obviously. And I just pushed back for a little more clarification from them on their last version. I want to bring it to this board for this board to look at. And then sometime in the next month or so. But it's an exciting project, and the mayor and I sat with them and learned more about the properties they have in mind, the artists and the designs and so on.
All right. Yeah, good.
Go ahead, John.
Can I ask a question? Has the John Elliott daughters, have they been in touch with you about the Hudson of yesteryear mural, the restoration?
I'm trying to remember, Joe. I know that I had a conversation with somebody, but I haven't been.
That's on, you know where I mean.
I know, I'm very familiar with the mural. No, it's not that. And the question about what its future is, I don't have any detailed information about that. I know that it's weathered and worn off, and I believe it's true that somebody in the family is planning on refreshing it in some way. I don't have any specific information about it. right?
For the mural project, are we pre-approving those designs? Like, can we see the design before it goes up?
That's the kind of question I think this board needs to learn more about.
Okay, I really think we should, only because there was an issue in the town of Greenberg where a mural was put up. One design was approved and then another design went up and the community was up in arms over it. So I think we should be a little bit serious about making sure whatever gets put up is exactly gets put up and we approve it, because they did get heat for.
They changed the design.
So it was a mural of Black leadership, Black heroes, and one design was approved and then the other design that went up had Louis Farrakhan on it. And there was some members of the community who were upset about it because of Farrakhan's statements. So I don't want to be in a position where everyone's coming to our meeting upset about that, so I think we should kind of be serious about making sure we pre-approve any designs and that it's done to the T of the design.
Is that consensus? Yeah, just, we have to be careful to cue a line of.
Oh yeah, I don't want to
be-
step on anyone's
I'd rather
creativity,
this
but
is
I
more
also.
awkward. I don't wanna be a super ARB board where we're gonna be like, I'd like this to be moved over there, like, I wouldn't mind sort of saying up or down.
I'm just saying that, like, if, you know, like, you don't know, Louis Farrakhan's kind of an anti-Semite, so like,
Yeah, I
I don't
understand.
want that, something like that to happen,
Yes.
that's more what I'm trying to avoid.
I think
So.
we should do a
that's
workshop
fine.
about this, maybe in a month or two. To have them come in, because the people who do the murals are very serious about this, and they actually do. And we can talk about the process and.
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree with you, there's gotta be some, I just don't want us to be micromanaging,
Yeah, I don't
an artistic
do that.
process,
No,
because I
no,
think
I
that's a bad position for us to be in. I will also thank Dominic Pillar, who's building, is one of the buildings that's really a perfect spot for a beautiful big mural. And he was in that meeting, and he's one of the spaces that I think is first in line to get attended to by this organization. Which has to do a lot of fundraising to actually get the money to actually put up these murals, because they're not free, they're not cheap. All right, done with communications, we have more round of public comment. If you ever make a public comment, please come on up. Oh, this is
It's pretty much just a couple questions about the
Maybe name.
public, Kirk Tiffany.
Oh, okay.
About the general that's gonna be hired for the public safety. Does he have the same kind of power to make arrests, badge, everything?
No.
He does.
Let's not talk about the individual, because the individual hasn't been hired yet, but the role is not going to be, it's not a police role. It's a, it's really a public safety position. They're not gonna have a gun, they're not gonna, I mean, they'll have some sort of identification on it, whether it will be a badge or probably looks something like a badge. But they will not be police, and their job will be to handle lower level code violations and be the eyes and ears on the street. So if something larger does happen, they can immediately get the police involved.
I guess the other comment was, what exactly did the Orangetown police say about the store? Is that spot is a big
Yeah,
problem.
It is.
And somebody's gonna really get hurt over there.
I
I mean, I have two small kids, 8 and 9-year-old, have to cross the street in order to walk my kids up. It's not even like just weed, you openly see drug dealing happening at that store. And now the other problem, you guys are thinking about putting a cannabis store over here. Like, do you guys think the same thing is gonna happen down there? I hope not. But that issue could move down here as well. And I just wanna know, what did Orangetown police say about the Thorpe store?
Kirk. So, we've had a lot of conversations about the sort of problem there. And it's hard to provide detail on the spot, but the focus has been around the sort of focus on open containers, which is a crime. The police are very careful to describe the nature of the law enforcement role. The loitering and panhandling and things like that are not crimes, and they won't arrest people or stop people from doing them. What they will do is look for drug dealing, open containers, And any kind of harassment or intimidation or anything. The one thing, Kirk, that they say over and over again is that no resident should ever hesitate to call the police if they feel unsafe or they see an
I
activity
think
they
there's
feel.
numerous of people that have called. I
Right.
mean, I see the cops standing in the corner there and I see what's going on there. You
Right.
you stand in that block, you stay there for like 2 hours, you know exactly what's going on.
So the message that
And
we
it's
get,
not like for a month, it's been going on for like, since that place opened.
so the message we get from the police over and over is to please call them at 359-3700. They pick up almost immediately and they will respond if there's ever a situation that someone needs help with. That's message number one we get from the police every single time we talk about it. The other thing I might want to mention actually, is that I've met with the owner of the building and the manager of that shop a number of times. And we're trying to get them to actually redesign the facade to eliminate the vestibule kind of hangout zone, which is sheltered from the elements
That's not
there.
gonna make a difference.
I actually disagree with you. I think architecture makes a huge difference. And right now,
You know who owns that store? That's not gonna make a difference.
well, I'm sorry, you're pessimistic about it, but we look for anything we can do to help. And right now, the appearance of that store and its design make it more likely to be a place where people stand in the vestibule and drink beer. And so we'd like to limit that, and if we could do it architecturally, that would be great. We don't control that, but we can certainly promote that idea to those who have the right to actually make those changes and spend that money.
Also,
That's
we have
another topic.
sent letters to the state liquor authority about the complaints that have been made about it. To review their license, and any individual, any citizen. Can go right online, just search New York State Liquor Authority complaints, and you'll find first position, the website. And if you want to make a complaint, go ahead and make a complaint. It does make a difference. If they hear from a lot of residents
You know,
about.
are they giving any tickets for like open containers, loitering,
Yes.
anything? They're
Open containers, yes, loitering, no.
Loitering, no, you can't, loitering is a very, loitering is people gathering in a place, it's not something.
And
that's
they're
very
not
easily-
saying anything about drug dealing.
We've brought it up to them and they have not confirmed one way or the other.
No, they also, I mean, obviously, they have methods for investigating drug dealing as well. That's one of the things police do regularly in this county.
I'm as frustrated as you are about it, I really am.
Yeah, like,
Uh,
I
we
can't
don't
even walk my
control
kids
that.
across that
I
street.
know, I don't like it, I've had them, I've walked by and had them turn down music and stuff like that when I'm there, but. You know, and that's what, I mean, to some extent, there is that's one of the purposes of having the public safety person walking around, that there's sort of there's a positional power that person has to say to people, now you guys, you know, could you give us a break? Could you move it down the street? Could you spread out? You know, don't clump here or whatever, that, you know, they have, that's what cops used to do. They didn't necessarily have to, back in the walking the beat days, that's what they did.
Yeah,
They
but
worked
you tell
personal
them to, you
relationships.
tell them to break it up without arresting them, then they're gonna move down the other street and in front of a different business.
I don't share your pessimism, but I understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add one other thing, and that is that it's really, really important that people who are victimized by any crime actually report that and work with the police to press charges. And it unfortunately is rather infrequent that the victims will take that step, and oftentimes they'll decline that opportunity for various reasons. And I mean, that's a frustration as well. But we need to support
What
people.
The salary of this person is gonna be, since he can't even make arrests.
It's not a salary, it's an hourly.
It's an
rate.
hourly wage,
Hourly
around
wage.
$25 an hour.
I guess the other thing, I know Dominic was bringing up a few things about the new cannabis store. I'm not sure about legality or whatnot. I know we opted in for the cannabis stores. Do you guys have the power to change the zoning over here to not be in the center of town?
Well, all right, just to clarify, one, we did opt in, we can't opt out. We did put restrictions on how they could be located, that were basically taken from the state restrictions, which essentially would prevent more than one recreational cannabis dispensary opening up in downtown. Legal one, there's illegal smoke shops, but of the legal ones, only one legal one could open. But the medical ones don't count toward that. The medical ones are different. This is a medical dispensary that's opening up at the Starbucks. And we don't have the ability, and we don't have the ability right now to say, okay, this person's already made an application. their application, I believe, was made over 2 years ago to the state to open up. They've had the lease now for at least a year. It's been at least a year that we've heard about this. And at this point, it's not like we can now unilaterally change the zoning to make what they're doing illegal, because we really don't have we've opted into having, and actually, I should clarify, they're medicinal, so we don't really have that ability to shut them down anyway. They're treated differently than the recreational ones. But I would say that there was a deliberate choice that people here don't agree with, that it was not an inappropriate thing for us to have cannabis dispensaries in the downtown. And that was a vote that was taken 4 years ago. And people can disagree about it, but I believe that the legal dispensaries are actually operated in a way that's not as alarming or as concerning as what's going on with the illegal ones. The illegal ones, I think, make everybody really alarmed because they really do look like not good. And the legal ones are generally in much better presentation.
The other thing, I guess in the last meeting, when about the gentleman was looking to open certain hours. The gentleman was looking to open up certain hours and he was closed on Sundays. Is technically, can this person be open 24/7?
Who is that? No, there's limitations in the statute that we have.
Would you happen to know that?
I remember what they are, I sent them out today.
Can you guys make restrictions on
We
that?
did make a restriction on the hours, yes.
You did.
It's restricted, they can. I don't think they can be open on Sunday.
But just to be clear,
Well, he said
the
he was
village
gonna be
doesn't have any
closed.
rules for medical,
For medical, we don't have any rules, not the medical one.
and we can't have them. It's a retail operation. like
I'll
any
tell you,
other
we
retail.
gotta wrap up, and I've given you more time than we gave other people, but if you wanna sit and talk, I'll stay here as long as you wanna talk about it.
Thank
you. All right?
So it's a done deal.
Yeah. Medicinal's a done deal.
It's not, medicinal still has the same restrictions in.
I'm just gonna stop. I started the meeting by saying it was a done deal. I literally started the meeting by saying, we are not under a proposal to approve or disapprove the cannabis dispensary. I'm sorry if that was somehow missed,
More and more interested in
Can I say
but
something?
they're all gonna,
I think the most important thing here
yeah,
is.
please give her 2 minutes, because she
Yeah,
wants to speak
sorry.
before.
So the most important thing, I think, is the responsibility of the village, the mission statement of this village and the board and the trustees towards who are we serving? Who are the population of Nyack? What are they comprised of? Who is in Nyack? 7,000 people. And what do they want? Who are these people? They are families with children, or are there a bunch of people who want to get stoned and they are looking for to be served with dispensaries and smoke shops and all that? Who are we responsible for? Who has elected us here? So that's basically what I say. Once that mission statement is clear about serving the families, the youth, what do they want, what kind of stores they want, what kind of needs they have, how should we make this village look like, what should the street signs look like, what should the store signs look like, what the stores are allowed, what the stores are not allowed. Nothing illegal about doing that. Is there any argument against that who is your audience and who do we want to serve? That's basically what I say. Once we establish that, I think everything would be geared towards that. Then all of these questions about the crimes, about that, all of that would be resolved because all of that would be automatically handled and would go away because it's not geared towards that. Once you establish that, then it would become nice.
I think it's very clear that the voters of the village elected us to administer and run the village, number one. Okay, so each of us have our own points of view, our own philosophy, and things that we care about. That's definite. And obviously what you mentioned is exactly, I think all of us care about that. Okay, we are looking out, at least I can speak it for my name, I'm sure everybody else here that we're looking out for the residents of the village.
Yes.
Bottom line.
So how did you
Bottom
guys
line.
figure out these residents need to need a?
Okay, I just wanna say.
How did you guys decide that?
Well, Joe wasn't on the board back then.
Yeah, I
In fact,
wasn't on the board, and I gotta tell you something, I probably, if I was on the board, I would have voted against it. Okay, that being said, that it is now a law. We have to honor the.
But have you seen
We
how-
have to honor, hold on a second, we have to honor the decisions of previous boards, okay? Especially since once you opt in, you cannot opt out, it's a one-way street, okay? There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do.
Well, Joe, in a higher up in Washington, there are all kinds of laws are made and they are doing all change. All of them are being.
we're out of time.
Everything, we can change that.
We're out of time. I will say this, we had multiple well-publicized meetings about this in 2021 when this was decided. And I would say at the time, the comments that we had at these meetings were 10-1 in favor of opting in. They're all recorded, you can go find them. They're all recorded.
It was all on Zoom.
I just do wanna.
I'm sorry that you didn't know about it.
I
I'm sorry
do
you didn't know
wanna
about
also
it.
point out that.
People knew about it and showed up at the meetings and they all.
But
It was COVID time.
It doesn't.
no, it was
it's-
before COVID and I was here during those discussions. There were public comment and people came forward asking, it was post-COVID. People came forward saying they don't want us to opt out. Now, that being said, even if we had opted out, we cannot opt out of a medical dispensary. We can't at all,
But you have
But you
recreational
have it
use
on the
twice
street.
a week also, and you can put.
which can't move in because of the 2,000 feet requirement.
No.
No, ma'am, you've already interrupted me once and I'd like to finish my statement. Number one, I've checked the state regulations. There are regulations for security. There are regulations for surveillance. There are regulations for brightly lit cameras. Up the street at Treehouse, it's bright, they have security, they even have ID cards where they scan your ID and if it's a fake, you get kicked out on top of what's already there. They don't advertise to minors, they're not allowed to advertise to minors. Now, if there are questions about the 4 other smoke shops and you say that they are selling illegally, then they need to be reported because that is not allowed, that is illegal. Period, end of story. And we do not want those businesses in our downtown if they are not regulated. So I'm trying to explain to you that even if we had opted out, we cannot opt out of medical marijuana. And I do agree with you that we do need to be clearer on our no smoking zones and making sure that minors not in these places. We don't disagree with you on those things. Those are things we can work towards. But I'm trying to get you to understand that a medical marijuana dispensary is allowed regardless. That's why there's one in Clarkstown, even though the town of Clarkstown opted out of recreational use. Because they are allowed, they are medical facilities to treat patients.
But do you have a say about the location of it at least?
No.
Because this is right in the center
No,
of
you
the
don't
town.
have a say.
It
That's what I'm
normalizes for the youth.
Ma'am, I'm trying to
for the
explain
kids.
to you that medical marijuana
kids-
dispensaries
the kids are
are
right
state
there.
regulated and are allowed, even if the municipality opted out. We don't
It's
have
gonna
control
change
over
the
that.
face of Nyack. Well, it's not drive everybody out. Okay.
Let me ask a question. The whole situation started is because when they made marijuana legal in the state of New York, everybody all of a sudden decided to jump on the ship. Everybody wants to do it this way, do it this way. The illegals are over here, the legals are over here, the medicals are over here. I mean, there's nothing you're gonna be able to do about it, but they opted out. The problem I think that they're having is that the location of the place, that's the problem.
I understand.
We don't disagree with that, but that's why I'm saying that it's
And that's why
because
they're
it's
all
as
up
its
in
nature
arms.
as a medical as a medical place, we do not have control over where it goes.
I understand.
We have control over recreational. And like I said, we'd be happy to continue to work with all of these suggestions. I don't disagree with many of these suggestions. I will say some of them are already enshrined in state regulations. Not all of them, but some of them. But I don't disagree with them.
Yeah, it's a bad location.
All right,
Just wanna-
we're,
one question.
yes, yeah, quick,
Um,
you're done.
The cards for the
ID
local
cards.
ID cards, where is that thought coming from? Like, why are we all of a sudden, cause I've been here almost.
It's not to do anything sinister other than to give people who don't have other proof of location, other proof of residency, that they can establish proof of residency for all the different reasons people need to establish proof of residency. Quite honestly, there should be a state issued card that gives you that identifies you as a resident.
There is, you can get one.
It should be done by the state. It is done by the state.
It's like, it
That's
almost
not
sounds like
licensed,
a
non-licensed. Okay.
You know what, in your address or your driver's license, and if you don't drive, you get a non-driver's ID. This, to me, almost.
They don't- no one has to-
It's like, the ICE thing and the immigrant thing,
It's
all the
not,
same.
no, it's the other way around. It's the other way around.
Next thing is that village is gonna get approached for purchasing this list, and that's revenue. To get the names and the data collectors or whoever gets money out of this can approach the village, and it is revenue then. Then we have to sell the names because it brings revenue to the village.
I think everybody in the room is taking a, no, actually, a couple people have not taken a turn of public comment. If they want to take a turn of public comment, they can. If not, I'm gonna ask to adjourn the meeting, but I will stay and talk personally to anybody who wants to continue to talk to me about this. So we're not gonna skip any executive session. We don't have anything important on the executive session. We can skip the executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's adjourned at